Hola Bessie, bienvenido a mi canal. This is our trip to Huila. We've got a bunch of different clips and a bunch of different scenes to show you and everything. It was a very exciting trip for me, and I got to see so much of the country and so many different environments that are there and different landscapes and everything. So I just wanted to share, and so hopefully you guys can enjoy this as well. We went to Huila from Bogota. It's an 8-hour trip in the car. We drove the entire way. And some of the landscapes that you see along the way are absolutely beautiful and amazing. There's so many different mountain ranges and fun winding roads. There's tunnels that you're driving through the mountains. So things that I've not really experienced before. But it definitely didn't feel like an 8-hour drive. It was incredible, and time just kind of flew by fast. I was with my family the entire time, with my wife, talking, playing games in the car, and just chatting. But my favorite part was just looking out the windows and seeing the beauty and the landscapes and everything like that pass us by. We are in Obo, and this is the viewpoint from the reservoir and some of the other viewpoints that we visited. And I had no idea that the reservoir was going to be so incredibly large, just in scale, in size. It's huge. And a lot of people don't actually think about things like that, especially when it's not something that you commonly see. So around here where I live, I don't necessarily see a lot of reservoirs or anything like that. Or if you do, they're super, super tiny. This was huge. And as you can see, the view from where we were standing at the viewpoint was amazing. And it just kind of seemed like the reservoir stretched on forever. And then when you actually do get to the edge of it, there's just gorgeous mountains. You genuinely feel like you're on top of the world. While we were in Huila, we decided made sure that we stopped at a lot of the different museums that they have. They had the Archaeological Museum, which I personally found very, very, very interesting. They have tons of different artifacts pottery and sculptures and things that they had just found in the area from the indigenous peoples. It was really educational. One of my favorite parts though is when we go to the museum that has much more of the cultural aspects of things. So we got to see a lot of the traditional dress, a lot of the instruments. They had videos playing of contests with traditional dance and traditional costumes. And for me, that's the kind of culture that I really enjoy because it's so much more about the people. And now we are in Gigante, looking at a lot of the different viewpoints. That's one of the best things about being in Colombia, is you can find so many different viewpoints on top of the mountains where you can get just an incredible view of everything that is all around you. And it really showcases and shows off how beautiful the country itself really is. My wife loves to pick on me because we go to these viewpoints and then all of a sudden I am like a 5-year-old little kid, laughing and smiling and everything, looking at all of the different sculptures and statues that they have, the different viewpoints that you can climb up on and take pictures of. And there's one specifically that was a giant blue monkey. That I just smiled like an idiot over, and she thinks is very, very funny. But these are some of my favorite memories, and I absolutely love the fact that they have all of these different viewpoints that you can go and visit. While we were in Gigante, we got to see a demonstration and get an explanation of the process of how the coffee on the mountain is grown, how they process it, A lot of the stuff is still done completely by hand, but it was very educational. There was a lot of things that you learned that I had never actually realized before. But watching where coffee comes from inside like the little berries and how they have to like grind all of the seeds out of them and everything, it was super cool. And I really enjoyed just learning all about that. Plus, it also had some of the best viewpoints and best sculptures in the area. So if you ever get an opportunity to go and visit places like that, I would definitely suggest it. It's got to be on your to-do list. We visited Desierto de la Totocoa. That was a ton of fun. We visited at night. We got to see like exactly how huge the sky looks and like how bright all of the stars are. And when you are out in the desert like that, just how incredibly majestic everything looks. You don't know like the entire scope or how wondrous everything is around you until you're in an environment like that. I have so many fond memories of that day and of that visit, specifically just my wife trying to get me to say certain things in Spanish that I keep messing up. There was a blooper video that had some of that stuff in it, and if you get an opportunity to check it out because it is hysterical. But the desert was so much fun, and it's definitely one of the high points of the trip for me. We got to see Malecón of Magdalena, the river, and take some really fun pictures there. One of my favorite pictures was the picture that we took with Moan. I love the legend of Moan. That is actually one of the reasons that my wife and I first met and first started talking, was because of my fascination with different indigenous legends and legends from around the world. And one of the things that we genuinely bonded on first was the legend of Moan. But as you can see from the videos and the photos, like the view of the river is just, it's breathtaking. And the area is, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And I wish that I could better describe or better put into words, but some things you really just have to be able to see with your own eyes. On the way back to Bogota, we went to Aipe. And this is one of those parts of the trip that I honestly think is something that a lot of people would take for granted. But we got to see a lot of people having fun in the rivers. It's fun for me, it's interesting for me, because that's when you get to see the culture at its best. That's when you get to see people just being people and being positive and having fun. There is also this incredible sculpture on a wall of an indigenous woman, like her face, the story of like the town's history all carved into the wall, and the amount of detail and the amount of care that went into it is amazing. When we were driving by, I genuinely started like yelling and pointing out the window, like, look at that, it's so incredible. I had to get out and take pictures of it. But this is the kind of thing that I love the most about the culture, is you get to see these kind of depictions and these representations like everywhere, and it's something that a lot of people should appreciate. My trip to Huila was beyond incredible. I got to see so many things that I had never seen before, and I learned a deeper appreciation for the culture and the history of the people in Colombia. But there is a ton of things that I never got to witness before, that this was my first time. And one of my favorites was seeing like these two giant iguanas walking around the street. And I asked my wife, I'm like, is this normal? She's like, yes, it happens all the time here. I'm like, that is super interesting and it's mind blowing, but it's very, very cool. But the culture, the museums, the carvings on the walls, the way that they decorate the different town centers that we visited, even the sculptures that they have at the viewpoints. It's such a great representation of the people of Colombia and the beauty that the country has to offer. It is something that I will always love and always appreciate. So, ciao, Bessies. From El Desierto de la Totocoa. I picked this one specifically because it reminded me, with the nighttime scene on it, of all of the pretty stars. Cactus keychain with the traditional Colombian hat.